Men of reason pause and consider this paradox. If she loves you, she may ignore you. Not because love is absent, but because love, in its raw and unspoken form, often arrives cloaked in silence. The Stoic does not fear this quiet. He does not chase noise or cling to validation. He understands that the surface does not always reveal the depth. And so, when faced with withdrawal or distance, he does not react. He observes, he endures, and he remembers. The test of love is not always presence, but often patience. Let us explore 5 truths behind this silence, 5 reasons why love may feel like absence, and how the Stoic man responds. When a woman experiences genuine affection for a man, it can stir something unfamiliar and intense within her. These emotions, though rooted in love, often bring vulnerability to the surface. Feelings she may not fully understand or know how to manage. In that moment, instead of becoming more open or expressive, she may retreat into silence. Her way of processing deep emotion might not look like closeness or warmth. It might look like distance, hesitation, or even indifference. But beneath that apparent coldness, a storm of feelings often brews. This reaction is not a sign of detachment or disinterest. It is the mind's attempt to protect the heart from being exposed too soon or too completely. Love, especially in its early stages, can feel overwhelming. It threatens control, disrupts logic, and invites risk. For a woman who values stability or has been hurt before, this emotional surge can be deeply unsettling. So she pauses. She pulls back. She may even ignore the very man who awakened these feelings within her, not to punish, but to cope. The Stoic man sees through this. He does not react with insecurity or neediness. He does not demand clarity or chase her down for answers. Instead, he watches. He understands that silence is not always emptiness. It can be a space for emotion to settle, for understanding to grow. He allows her the time to navigate her own emotional terrain. And by remaining steady, patient, and composed, he becomes a safe harbor rather than a source of pressure. What she often needs is not a solution or persuasion, but the quiet presence of a man who remains unshaken by the unknown. That presence speaks louder than any words could. It tells her, you are safe to feel and I am strong enough to wait. When a woman distances herself emotionally or begins to ignore you, it may not be a sign of disinterest, but rather a way to observe your strength in solitude. In love, she often wants to see who you are without her influence, without her attention validating your confidence or her presence anchoring your emotions. This is not always conscious. It's an instinctive move to understand your internal foundation. Can you still lead your life with purpose when her affection isn't constant? Can you remain whole when the external warmth momentarily fades? This space she creates is not meant to provoke or manipulate, but to witness your reaction. Many men falter at this stage. They become anxious, they chase, they question their worth, because they are no longer being mirrored. But the Stoic man does not break under such tests. He welcomes the silence as a challenge to fortify his independence and reinforce his identity beyond the approval of any one person. She may watch from a distance to see if your values remain intact, if your focus remains sharp, if you can continue on your path without collapsing into self-doubt. This is where true respect is earned, not through grand declarations or desperate pleas, but through quiet composure and unwavering discipline. When you show that your peace is not dependent on her attention, she begins to see you not as someone who needs her to feel worthy, but as a man who chooses to include her without requiring her. In this posture of self-sufficiency, you gain gravity. Your energy shifts from being dependent to magnetic. A woman may step back, but it is often through that space that her respect for you deepens. When she sees you are not shaken, not moved, and certainly not diminished by her temporary silence. When a woman begins to care deeply for a man, it often awakens emotions she may have buried or guarded for years. These feelings, though rooted in affection, can trigger past fears, unresolved wounds, or memories of betrayal. Love in its most sincere form doesn't always bring comfort. It brings exposure. And when the heart feels exposed, The natural response for many is to retreat behind old defenses. This can manifest as emotional withdrawal, distance, or even indifference. To the untrained eye, it looks like she is losing interest. But the truth may be that she is overwhelmed by what she is starting to feel. A man who does not understand this will react. He'll question her loyalty, try to fix the dynamic, or worse, compromise his self-respect to pull her back. But the Stoic man does not interpret her behavior through a lens of personal offense. He understands that what she is projecting may have little to do with him and everything to do with her past. He does not take her retreat as rejection, but as reflection of her own inner conflict. By remaining centered, he becomes a calm presence in her storm, without trying to control or rescue her. He recognizes that love is not always expressed through words or closeness. Sometimes it is tested in silence and confusion. The Stoic man honors her journey without abandoning his own. He gives her the space to confront her feelings while staying true to his values and direction. Through this patience and self-possession, he earns a deeper form of trust, one not built on constant attention, but on emotional stability. And over time, she may come to see that his strength lies not in reacting to her fears, but in calmly respecting them and standing steady while she wrestles with her own. In many subtle and unconscious ways, a woman may test a man's emotional independence. This is not done with cruelty or intention, but as a natural instinct to understand who you truly are beneath the surface. When she grows quiet, withdraws her attention, or becomes less emotionally available, what she's often doing is watching how you respond when you are no longer fed by her validation. A man whose identity is dependent on her approval will falter. He will chase, question himself, or attempt to fix something that was never broken. But a Stoic man understands the deeper truth. These moments are not obstacles. They are mirrors. How you respond to her absence reveals everything about your inner foundation. If your sense of worth crumbles without her praise, then what you had was never strength. It was need disguised as confidence. But if you remain focused, calm, and continue living by your principles regardless of her actions, you demonstrate the kind of rare self-possession that earns genuine respect. This is not about indifference or arrogance. It's about being rooted so deeply in your own values that no one, not even someone you care about, can unbalance your center. When she observes that you can thrive emotionally without leaning on her for constant reassurance, her respect for you grows. She sees a man who chooses her, not one who needs her to survive. And that choice, made from a place of strength rather than desperation, is what truly captivates her. The Stoic does not pass or fail this test by manipulating the outcome, but by staying true to himself regardless of how the test is presented. In doing so, he becomes the kind of man who cannot be shaken by silence nor swayed by affection, because he is already complete. When a woman pulls away or acts distant, it can feel like rejection, but it is often something much more subtle. She is watching your energy. She wants to know if you can maintain your sense of direction and inner calm when she becomes a mystery. Can you still move through your day with purpose, or does her silence unravel your sense of self? This is where many men fail. They panic, over-pursue, or spiral into self-doubt, revealing that their identity was too closely tied to her presence. But the man who holds to his center, who keeps his energy composed and steady, becomes magnetic in her eyes. A woman does not want to lead your emotional state. She wants to feel the strength of a man who already governs himself. When your energy remains consistent, not desperate or withdrawn, you show her that your life is full with or without her constant attention. You remain kind, respectful, but not begging. Engaged in your purpose, committed to your discipline, and unbothered by momentary emotional weather. That level of restraint reveals depth, maturity, and masculine calm that is increasingly rare. The Stoic man understands that true power is not shown in dominance or control, but in self-command. His energy isn't scattered in response to temporary tests or shifting moods. It is gathered, focused, and directed toward something higher. Women feel this. They sense the man who doesn't need to chase because he trusts the value of what he brings. He doesn't flinch when affection fades because he knows who he is without applause. In time, she may return, not because he pleaded, but because his quiet power reminded her of what she truly seeks. A man who does not sway in the storm, but who becomes even more certain in its presence. So when silence arrives, do not rush to fill it. Do not beg to be seen. Instead, be still, be disciplined, be sovereign. The Stoic man does not chase affection, he attracts it by his unwavering peace. Love, in its highest form, will never belong to those who demand it, but to those who master themselves in its presence and in its absence alike.